Hello and welcome to this installment of Kronos Refresher Training. Today we're going to talk about moving amounts. As always, please do reference the most recent version of the standard operating procedures, and you can follow along through here. So moving amounts typically refers to moving overtime to comp time or comp time to overtime, and any variation that can occur there. So I'm going to go ahead and start off by pulling up one of my employees that has earned either overtime or comp time. And as always, I'm going to open up the total section here. And go to the previous pay period. So I can see that this employee had worked 44 hours in the previous week and earned 4 hours of comp time at the 1.5 rate. In this scenario, this employee is requesting to be paid out this comp time as overtime. And if we want to pay that out, so the employee receives it on their paycheck, we're going to have to move this to overtime 1.5. One thing that's important to remember is an employee can earn comp time or overtime for hours less than 40 if it exceeds their FTE scheduled hours. So if you have an employee that's a 0.5 FTE, any of those hours over 20 are going to go to their comp time 1.0 or their straight time amount. So you can think of the 1.0 rate as being hours over their FTE scheduled hours, but under 40 hours. And the 1.5 rate is hours over 40 for the week. So keep in mind that whenever you move amounts, you have to move the earned pay code to the other applicable earned pay code. So in this instance, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on the comp time 1.5 that was earned and select move amount. Now, one thing that you always want to take into account is the effective date, because when you're moving an employee's amount, you're moving what they earned for the entire week. So this default of 4/30 is not correct. We would not want to move comp time on April 30th. And technically, they did not earn it until Saturday, May 6th, or end of the day, May 5th. So I would always recommend one of two things. Either come down here and click on the day before you select move amount, or just be very mindful that you need to move this amount, move this effective date here. So the from box up here shows us that the employee earned comp time 1.5 and 4 hours of it at this labor level. So what we want to do is we want to move comp time 1.5 to the applicable overtime pay code. So from our pay code drop down box, we're going to choose overtime 1.5 because that is the corresponding pay code. We're going to want to put in 4 hours. If you never want to exceed the amount that was actually earned, otherwise you will be giving an employee overtime that they did not earn. And then we're not going to do anything with the transfer because we don't use transfers in the sense of pay code earnings. So we're going to go ahead and click OK. And we're going to save it. Well, I accidentally clicked OK twice there, and I believe it just doubled up the pay code. So in order to fix this, it's pretty simple. We're going to right click on overtime 1.5 and click move amount. And you'll recall we did this on the 5th. So I'm just going to move 4 of those hours back to comp time. And I'll be very patient. Okay, so now we can see in our total section, the employee will be receiving 0 hours of comp time 1.5, which was originally earned. They will be receiving 4 hours of overtime 1.5 that will be paid out on the time card. So always keep in mind that we need to move amounts to the applicable bucket. One example that shows up pretty often is if this were to say comp time 1.0, then you would need to move that to the straight time bucket. So straight time is essentially overtime earned at the straight rate. And conversely, if the employee earned straight time, you would need to move it to comp time 1.0. If they earned overtime 1.5, you would need to move it to comp time 1.5. So that is about all there is to moving amounts. Just remember that you always want to make the effective date at the end of the week after all hours have been worked and are in. You always want to move to the applicable bucket, and you never want to see a negative. If you ever see a negative, you know something quite right didn't happen, and so you'll want to go back and move those amounts to where one earned amount is zeroed out and the other amount has the correct, is reflecting the correct amount.